So now we've spoken about death, where we came from, where we are going to go, and feelings, anger, and anxiety, and all these things in other chapters. And now we come to what is our reality. So, at each state in its development, the fetus uses cues from its environment to decide how best to construct itself within parameters of its genes. This is coming from specialist in obstetrics and behavioral science with the University of California. So the unborn embryo from its one self phase is constantly assessing and reassessing feedback from all sources to create its unique sense of self. Everybody is unique in their own way because constantly we are getting inputs. So life is live information and experience. And from these inputs, we are constantly assessing, reassessing, and writing our own software. Genes do not control themselves, they're controlled by the environment and intellect and mind and body system. In other words, we write the software of our genes from a constantly assessed feedback loop. So, we are born in a certain situation and circumstance. Did you choose it? Did I choose it? No. The time we are born, from the time we are in the womb, we start getting inputs from immediate surroundings, family, friends, what's happening in the environment of the home. Based on these inputs, we form our own opinions. This is the cell starting to form its own intelligent opinions and writing its own software. These constant inputs are occurring, and our reality is constantly changing. This is unique to every single entity in the universe, their own singularly unique changing world and thereby perceptions. This is the reality for every entity present in the universe, an ever changing reality. In the grand scheme of things, our average lifespan of 80 years is infinitely small. The universe has been around for 13.8 billion years. We do not know what happened before that, before we were born, what will happen. So if you draw 13.8 billion years on a scale and try to pick out 80 years in that scale, probably it's not even the size of a measurable dot. But all the molecules and atoms and everything in our bodies and the surroundings that we are experiencing has been constantly changing and has been there from the beginning of time or beginning of the universe, let's say. So we do not know what will happen after this experience of our reality ends. So right now we are here in this world. I'm sitting here in Australia near Melbourne and doing whatever I'm doing. Our experiences are constantly changing and moving into a multi-dimensional phenomena. Change is occurring at every given point in time. And all you have to do, based on these inputs, you create your own experience. It's not your choice. The inputs come, we write our software, and somebody becomes a social worker, somebody becomes a fitness expert, somebody becomes a soldier, somebody becomes a drug addict, somebody becomes whatever it is. Everybody has a role to play in this play that's occurring. And we have many roles to play. Maybe you're a father one day, maybe you're a grandfather one day, maybe you are a child, maybe you are a sick person, maybe you're a healthy person, you're a champion. Our roles are constantly changing. So once this experience of this human dimension is finished, a new experience might happen. We don't know where it is going, what it is, the unknown. But even in this lifespan of our human life of say 80 years, death is constantly occurring. Death of something, death of being a school student, you become a university student, for example. So death is not the beginning, it's not the end, it's the beginning of something new. As a human being, we're subjected to a variety of experiences constantly happening and changing right from the moment you wake up, whether it's the weather or you experiencing other human beings, the connection, the people at your workplace, the food you eat, everything is changing and everything is giving you inputs, and based on those inputs you are creating much more uh, variety in your life and everything else, thought processes and everything else. So imagine a river flowing from the mountain. The river is constantly changing. There are millions of bubbles constantly changing the form of the river. There are eddies, there are current, there are rapids, there are waterfalls. Our life is like a bubble in this great river of life that ends. It just comes up and it goes. The river is a continuum of life in which you are a little bubble. The river has been present for billions of years, and we observe ourselves as entities. The bubbles are recreated, bubbles end, but new bubbles come up. You're surrounded by million other entities, dogs, cats, plankton, fish, the, the phenomenal variety of species, flowers, birds. Just look around you at this grand drama that's unfolding. Buildings, planets, everything is vibrating at its own frequency, in its own level, in its own way for a fixed time span. Some die, you know, some insects die maybe in one day, some don't die. There are plankton and there are single cell organisms which never die, and there are human beings who die maybe at 10, at 20, 30, 40, 100. Elephants live for longer times, and things are always having a very varied lifespan based on their vibrations and energies. And there might be a mountain, but then if there is a volcano and there is an explosion below the mountain, and then the mountain is shattered, lifespans changed. Everything is constantly changing. The situation around you is constantly changing form, and based on these changes, our inputs are new, and based on the inputs, we change our perceptions of the world. We are surrounded by family, friends, colleagues, people, other entities we consciously we don't have a relationship with. Each of these entities are unique, having their own experiences, which are constantly changing. Just like the butterfly effect, a butterfly flapping its little wings somewhere in South America can alter wind currents and create a change in the atmosphere in a distant place like Australia. The whole the city you're living in is pulsating, it's changing constantly, bubbling along, and inputs are occurring. And if you look at the scheme of things, we have no clue, because there are a billion, million, trillion equations that are constantly changing and occurring at the same time. The world in relation to our universe is very small. In this little city of Melbourne, where it is a seething mass of, say, 7 million people, whatever it is, plus all the animals and the plants and the birds and the bees and the fish and everything else that is occurring, which is constantly changing. If you look at ourselves, we are an infinitely small entity, which are and we are just a part of the cosmic world, pulsating along with no control. We are just there, floating along, doing what we need to do. The universe, our little universe, our in relation to maybe the other universes that may be present, and galaxies and other entities that are there for billions and trillions of years, seems to be on such a wider, huge scale which is immeasurable. The funny thing is, as we know, it all begins with nothing and ends with nothing. Our life begins with nothing and expands from a one cell entity, from being a thought, to a full blown human being, which is exactly the same as the beginning of the universe. Birth of stars or anything in the universe we know, following a process of creation, preservation, and destruction. Same things happen to our body. Nothing becomes everything and back to nothing. This phenomenon of constant change, although goes from periods of nothing to nothing, can vary greatly in terms of time. So we are made up of billions of atoms and molecules. Atoms are made of nucleus, electrons, proton, and neutrons. Deep inside, we find quarks, and beyond that, nothing. The weight of a body is actually the weight of the empty space or nothing that exists between the protons. Nothing exists is a paradoxical statement. The nothing or undefinable parameter that is constantly present in every animate or inanimate form in the universe. Nothing is the underlying essence from which everything else is based and created. In other words, you are nothing, nothing is everything, and everything is you. Everything is nothing, and nothing is everything. It's very paradoxical. And we are always trying to go back to this process of going back to the nothing, consciously or unconsciously. Taking drugs, drinking alcohol, we want the mind to stop thinking, and we want to hit the space of nothingness. And whether people try it consciously with meditation, during martial arts or exercise or yoga, watching mindless television, whatever it is, we want to be away from that and go back to our essence, which is nothing. To consciously do it is meditation. To consciously, unconsciously do it is whatever we call it, could become addiction and distraction and whatever it is, but we are trying to get away from the whole process into this process of nothing. The easiest way to do that, follow your breath, watch your breath, the mind stops and you hit that space. And the more you hit that space, the more profound it becomes, and the processes start changing. The processes start changing in the mind of the cells, because each cell is like an entity or a person carrying out many functions to keep the whole process alive. And we have no control about that. They all function. We function. We just play in this world. It's called a Leela. Or we have our roles as creators of experiences and other parameters as an aspect of the divine. So technically you are the divine creating itself, creating experiences and other parameters for its own purpose, if you don't know why. That's the greatest adventure. So flow with the go, even if it seems meaningless, and just be. Stop being a human doing and start being a human being.